Huawei just announced that it's going to be open sourcing two of its generative LLMs from the Pangu family. This is extremely important. One is going to be a 7 billion parameter model, and the other is going to be a 72 billion parameter model that falls under what they call the mixture of experts. This was a Huawei invention in the new in the AI space. And today I'm going to tell you why this comes at an absolutely critical junction for China in the AI arms race as we move forward. But first, I want to welcome you back to RubenTek, where we talk about the intersection of tech, politics, and finance. Today, we're going to be talking about the intersection of tech and politics. And trust me when I say politics plays a big role in this. And the first thing we need to do is we need to talk about Nvidia. Nvidia just announced that the Trump administration, after its framework of a deal, its handshake of a deal, its somewhat whatever dealings going on with China, it's hard to say. We're always told we have a deal, but there's no hard details coming out. But Jensen Huang mentioned that now they have the green light from the Trump administration to start selling H20s back into China. This is good news for Nvidia shareholders. If you're involved in a zero-sum game, this is great news for the West, okay? Jensen Huang had written down $5 to $8 billion earlier this year in lost sales to China from the H20. And now all of those Chinese manufacturers, the people in high technology that would need these chips, he can say, hey, we can start shipping back to you. Now, understand that Jensen competes directly with Huawei. And one of the best things that's happened to Huawei, in a way, has been U.S. sanctions. And we've discussed that many times in this channel. And why is that? Because it forced Huawei, it forced China to look internally into areas that hadn't done before and start flushing out its supply lines and building up its technology. So everybody already knows that China is the world's manufacturer. It's the world's factory, right? Nobody can manufacture things in the entire world like China can when it comes to production. They're simply unmatched. The U.S. is not even close. But when it's come to high technology, the U.S. has led the way, the West. And in order to achieve that domination, to keep that domination, instead of saying, hey, we're going to beat you on a level playing field, the U.S. has resorted to what I would call dirty tactics and said, we're going to start putting export controls on you. We're going to start putting all kinds of restrictions on you. And one of those companies that they did that to was Huawei. And we've discussed this many times on this channel. But for example, what happened was Huawei didn't shrivel up and die like the U.S. government was hoping it would. Instead, it came back bigger, stronger, and better than ever. And unfortunately for the West, the U.S. government kept doubling down on this stupid strategy. And just as recently as in, what was it, April or was it early May? It was April when the U.S. said, hey, we're going to strengthen export controls, and Nvidia, you can't ship these H20s, which is absolute nonsense. In response, Huawei said, well, guess what? To the Chinese business, we have a solution for you. It's our Ascend series, it's our Ascend lineup of AI accelerators, the 910B and the 910C. And to their credit, they tried to speed up production and get these in consumers' hands a little faster, and they were able to do that. But the simple fact is that they do not have the supply to meet the demand yet. And a lot of these people were left wanting. But it opened up a door for Huawei, and Jensen recognized this, and he started speaking out and saying, what we're doing is wrong. It's not going to work. These restrictions that we're putting on China is not holding them back. Look at what they're doing. Huawei is right there with us. And this wasn't hyperbole. As I've covered on this channel, the Huawei CM3A4, thanks to Huawei's innovation when it comes to networking, they were able to take 384 accelerators, GPU accelerators, and compete with the best system from Nvidia, the NVL72. This is despite the fact that the single chip, the 384 of them, but this one single chip in the CM3A4 was nowhere near comparable to a Grace Blackwell 200, which has 72 of them. But Huawei was able to string more of them together in parallel. Now, to be fair to Nvidia, as I've discussed on this channel, the NVL72 has a much better performance per watt, but in China, that's not as big of a deal as they have much lower costs when it comes to energy. And you might say, well, Ruben, you're going on circles here. How does this have to do with Huawei and Pangu models opening up? Well, the simple fact is that now you have Nvidia and maybe even the Trump administration starting to get a little bit of common sense and saying, you know what Jensen said is correct. If we want to win this game, if we want to stay ahead, what we need to do is we need to get them hooked on our technology so that they're using our tools. And that's the important thing. Now, I'm going to give you a perfect illustration of this. Prior to the blacklisting of Huawei, when they were a phone giant, and they are again a phone giant in China, but they had to rebuild themselves. But before all this stuff happened, Huawei was using the Android operating system. Now, Android is the most popular operating system for cell phones in the entire world. And Huawei and many other Chinese companies used it, okay? Because it was open source, but it wasn't truly open source because Google, what they did is they kept a lot of the most important parts of it behind closed source. But you could go ahead and you could just take the open source parts of it like Amazon did and release your own thing. And so China liked this flexibility, and so they went ahead and most of the Chinese phone makers, in fact, I would say almost all of them, adopted Android. But now understand that just like anything in America, or just the way things are, the American government had a lot of influence over Android. And now more so than ever they do. I mean, we see how the Trump administration directly issues orders to companies, right? And so what happened was America said, you cannot use the Android operating system to Huawei anymore. And instead of shriveling up and dying, Huawei came back stronger than ever and built Harmony OS, which is a true third-party competitor to the Android iOS duopoly, Western duopoly. And as of last year, Harmony has passed Apple in users. Now, will it catch Android? I don't know. I mean, maybe it could. But the simple fact is that a company that was written off for dead, that everybody in America, the American administration thought was, oh, this is going to kill them, came back stronger than ever. And in order to do it, they didn't utilize American technology. They built their own. And if you think about it, that's better for them because now what can happen? Nothing. The Trump administration cannot say to the Chinese consumer, don't use Harmony OS. They have no influence over it at all. And Harmony OS is picking up steam in other countries. What if it does threaten Android's dominance? You can point directly at if it does, just think about this. If Harmony OS surpasses Android in users, it will 100% be because of the Biden and Trump administration and their control, their control freakishness and trying to limit China. That will be the result. And Jensen Huang recognizes that. He's like, we can't take them off of our systems. We can't take them off of our software. If we do, they're going to turn internally, use their own tools, and they have so many people that those tools are going to gain so much momentum and so much power that we will not be able to stop them. It's just simply not going to work. Now, not everybody in China is off of Android. You still have Xiaomi, you still have OnePlus, you have many companies using Android. But just imagine if they start slowly moving over to Harmony OS. Maybe they wouldn't do that because Huawei is a competitor to them, but what if they start building their own operating systems? Okay, this is going to cause major problems for the US. And Jensen saw that happening with AI. And that's why Huawei Open sourcing these two models is so significant. Understand that you as a user cannot use these models. They're not meant for, they're not like a ChatGPT, they're not like a Gemini, they're not like Grok from XAI. They're not consumer-facing models, they're business models. But understand what they're doing to businesses. They're saying, you're not beholden to us. You don't have to pay us a license. Whatever you see fit in here to change, you can change. And Huawei is not the only one. Baidu open source their model too. Okay, so China's understanding that the way we're going to get people onto our ecosystem to stay over the West, which does have a leg up on us now. Absolutely, the West has a leg up in this stuff. China's right behind us, but the West has a leg up. But Huawei is saying the way we get ourselves back into the game is we give these companies the flexibility that they truly desire. Because understand this, a lot of corporations in China right now, Huawei simply can't meet the demand for the space. And so they're going to gladly start snatching back up Nvidia's chips. Okay? Happily. Nvidia will sell billions of dollars worth of chips into China. As an Nvidia shareholder, I'm happy for that. But the question is this, are the Chinese firms going to build with CUDA? Okay? CUDA is the tool set that you use to build on top of these accelerators. CUDA is closed source, and this is what Jensen's talking about when he says we want to get them hooked, we want them to stay on Western technology. CUDA is the ecosystem that he wants to keep them in. And remember, that means that we have control. Now, if you're the average, Chinese company, Chinese firm, and you don't have influence from Beijing, the choice is yours, right? And maybe, I bet a lot of them are going to build on CUDA. But if you do, you have to remember, especially with this wacky administration that we have right now, that they could change their mind on a whim. They could all of a sudden put controls, and tomorrow, you could be like, oh my God, I'm cut off from support. I'm cut off from my supply. This very realistically could happen. And so this is where I think that Huawei is seeing an opening. I understand that Pangu, these are generative LLMs, they are not competing with CUDA. But I'm just saying it's the idea of what they're doing here is they're threatening Western dominance. And I've spoke about this even in the West, where I've said, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, they face big issues with these generative LLMs. Because Google and Facebook are coming in and they're saying, you know what, we're going to open source our models. Now you might say Google doesn't open source Gemini. They don't. But they do have open source versions of it, which they call Gemma. And they also have open source business versions of it too. Google is playing both games. Meta isn't. Meta's open source and everything. And I've talked about how these companies that do that, they're looking at another end. They're like, hey, we don't have to profit off of this AI directly. We can profit off of it indirectly. And that's what Huawei is saying also. When it's open source in Pangu, they're saying we don't need to charge for Pangu because what we can do is we're going to tell people, hey, we trained Pangu, 72 billion parameter mixture of expert model, on our Extend accelerators. And look at the performance it achieved. It's absolutely incredible. And you should buy our Extend accelerators, though they have to meet the demand. Right now they don't have enough supply. They simply put, do not have enough supply to meet the demand. Okay? Maybe next year they'll be able to catch up. It's going to be a while. But that's the model that they're going to take, so that once they are able to have the capacity to meet demand, that they can go head to head with Nvidia. Because a lot of these Chinese companies, they are going to be worried. They're going to say, well, these H20s are available right now. I can buy them. We're familiar with CUDA. We're already using CUDA. The sanctions, yeah, those stung. But that Trump guy, he waffles back and forth. Maybe he's going to do it again. It's going to be in the back of their head. And Huawei is like, look at what we're doing. We're going to open source these AI models. Yes, that doesn't compete with CUDA, but we're going to also, maybe they'll also start open sourcing their tooling They already actually have an open source environment for their tooling for the Ascend series. They have a closed source environment too. But maybe they're still going to start going further. Be like, hey, we have this flexibility for you. For our tooling, we're not going to lock you in like Nvidia is if you use CUDA. We're always going to be there. And it's not like even Nvidia. Maybe you have a great relationship with Nvidia, but you don't know what the US government's going to do. You don't know what this crazy orange buffoon in the office is going to do. One day he's going to go left, one day he's going to go right. You have no idea. You can't plan a business around that. So even in America, like just think about this. In any other market that wasn't just a circus like America, right? Because America is literally a circus. Companies in America do not have to make money once they're listed financially. All they have to have is a cult leader. And as long as they have a cult leader, they essentially have infinite money to do whatever they want. They never have to make money. They just have infinite money to do whatever they want for as long as the cult leader can keep his cult followers happy. And we're seeing this with OpenAI right now. We're just nowhere near generating a profit. They're not going to generate a profit for the foreseeable future. When I say that, I'm not talking just a few years. I'm talking like 4, 5, 6 years. They're not even close. But they have infinite money to spend, and they're going to get more because that's how America works. Sam Altman's like just convincing people with his words, and people over here love words. They're just like, oh yeah, cult leaders, feed us more, make us feel good. Oh yeah, we'll just throw our money at you. It doesn't matter. We just print it anyways. It's not real. It's just how things work. So Sam Altman, who doesn't make any money, can go ahead and start saying, I'm going to build a browser. I'm going to build a search engine. I'm going to build this. I'm going to build that. Why? Because, well, he doesn't matter. He can build whatever he wants. He has all the money in the world he wants. It's like Tesla. What a loser company that is, right? But Elon Musk is like, yeah, people just give you their money for nothing. I'll just take it. I'll invest it into XAI, bail out Twitter, all this stuff. It's a clown show that is America. I mean, I call it a clown show, and it absolutely is. But part of me is thinking that maybe it's time for me to get my big red nose and floppy shoes on, because it's like these guys are profiting. It's just nuts how it works over here. Okay? It really is. But anyways, if there's any semblance of structure in America to the market, then these guys who are open sourcing their models are absolutely going to win. Because here's the thing, XAI, what are they charging now? $300 a month for their top level service? And you can get it from Google for $20 a month. And you might say, well, Google has this one that's $150 a month. That's because of the video generation, that VO3, which is insanely expensive, not just in cost, but in compute. I mean, it's just nuts. Just imagine how much energy that's burning every time to make a silly 8-second video. But you can get comparable to Elon's best package for $20 a month from Google. And actually, you can get it for free. You can use it for free. You just have a rate limit on how much you can use it. And the same thing is coming. And that's because Google doesn't have to make money directly from it. It makes money from other things. And the same thing's happening with their business consumers. They're like, hey, we have these completely open source, completely 100% free to use for you. Gemma models that you can use, but they run best on RTPUs. Exactly what Huawei is learning. And people are going to be like, yeah, these are amazing models. Maybe I should give the Google Tensor processing units a try and build on these, especially since it's open source and I'm not stuck with it. And so that's why I'm saying China is at a critical junction right now. The simple fact is that Jensen Huang is getting back into China, and he's going to be bringing his H20s over there, his accelerators. And it's not that Chinese companies shouldn't use these H20s. They should. If they have a demand, if they have a need that needs to be filled, and there it is, right here. You can buy this and you can have it shipped to you. But the question is, are you going to get hooked on CUDA? Are you going to get hooked on the ecosystem? That's the real question. And what I think that Huawei is doing here in response to that, by saying, look at this, we're going to be an open source leader. I think it comes at perfect timing because they know they don't have the supply to meet the demand right now, but they're planning ahead. And maybe they're not saying out loud, but indirectly, Chinese businesses are going to be saying, can I trust not Nvidia, but can I trust America? So anyways, we're going to have to see how this plays out. It's absolutely huge news. H20s going back, Huawei open sourcing 2 of its large language models. I mean, I can't wait to see how all this turns out. All of you out there, have a great day. Glad to see you. Take care.